This is Matthew McConaughey.
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson.
Michael Ian Black.
And you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan
Schawbel.
Brian, welcome to Five Questions.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it is my pleasure.
First off, I'm very, very jealous of your podcast studio and quality.
Well, thank you. I had nothing to do with it, but I enjoy using it, and yeah, it's definitely become my second home here.
How did you originally get interested in theater, speech, and drama growing up?
Well, it kind of by accident. I was really interested in sports as a kid, and it's a very long story, and I won't bore you with all of the details, but I decided to have some surgery because I wanted to be a professional baseball player. This was my dream and my goal, and I could have lived my entire life and never gotten this surgery. It was on my leg. I had a little twisted leg, and I wanted to be able to run faster. So I went and I had the surgery. Long story short, there were some complications, and I ended up burning a hole while I was in surgery and asleep for multiple days through to my Achilles tendon in the back of my leg. And that set me back. that didn't move me forward to being a professional baseball player. And so I spent basically a year having to recover and rehab from that. I was an active kid, and so I tried to find something else to do. I had dabbled a little bit in terms of school plays or whatever. But I started to really dive into that and really did it as a hobby, as an activity, because I was active and something to do, I guess, at a certain point as an extracurricular to like check a box for college applications and so forth. And then it was the summer in between my junior and senior year of high school, where I went to Northwestern University. They have a program like a summer camp, 6-8 weeks or something, but it's not like you can go every year. It's only for students who are between their junior and senior year of high school. Northwestern, I don't know. It's called the Cherub Pro. I'm a cherub, basically, is the gist of it. And I did that, and my eyes were opened. I from an activity to like, oh, I get this now in a totally new way, how deep we can go in terms of learning and the art and creating character and action and objective, and really fell in love with it. And from there, I was on a path to doing what I do now. That I really fell in love and decided from there to pursue this.
So it really showed you that it's a skill set. It's a true art form. It's not simple, and
yeah,
it
that
takes
there's
a lot
more
of work
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it could become a career. It's like it kind of moved you from, oh, this is a great hobby, into, oh, I could actually do this.
Yeah, clearly, well, maybe not clearly, but I had good instincts. I could make good choices. My voice was loud. I had a certain stage presence, those things. And I think I just sort of, for most of my time before that, it was just that base level, but it was like, oh, I see. Like, we can ask questions about the world, and there's a whole academia that is behind how to create characters and being an actor and voice and movement and all of those components of, synthesizing your body and your voice and your choices in terms of characterization. All of those things were just really fascinating to me. Yeah.
And then fast forward, you're most known for The Office, of course. Why do you think The Office still resonates with audiences today? And what were the biggest lessons learned while working on the show?
First off, that's two questions right there. So you just burned Want to do five? Another one of your five. No, look, well, over the last 4 years, essentially through podcasts and books, I have tried to answer that question. Now, I've gotten a little closer. I don't know that there is any one true answer. As every great question doesn't have one true answer. I think that there's a combination of things. I think that the show was not made for kids, very specifically. Like tangibly, we talked about it. This was a show for people who worked in office spaces. It was a workplace comedy, which was a staple of television at that point, from the Mary Tyler Moore Show and on and on and on. Just Shoot Me. And so we consciously thought, and we knew we were doing something different in terms of the genre, the style, how it was shot, the no laugh track at that time. But we would say, like, okay, well, if 10% of people who work in offices, or 5% of the 200 million people who work in offices can relate to the show and the characters here, we'll stay on the air. We never thought, like, if 16-year-olds find this show, like, that was not even a part of the thing. And so part of its astronomical climb is due to the fact that kids started watching it. And for a long time, I always said it was the show's subversive nature. Like, it's subversive in a way. It's not on the nose. That appeals to sort of a subversive demographic, usually younger people. Okay, that might be true. But I think the correlation and the connection between people who work in an office with an unreasonable boss who make them do unreasonable things is parallel to a student who works in a classroom by a teacher who gives them unreasonable assignments and makes them do unreasonable things while sitting next to oftentimes the same people year after year after year that you don't choose to sit next to or interact with. And so I think that community that was built was much more than just workplace. It was about a community. And part of that was the way the show was shot. And I think you can tell the camera's moving around. There are no movable walls. It's a real space. There's sort of an ultra realism to the show and the way that it's shot that really puts you in an environment that is enclosed, which I think, one, helps with the comedy, and two, helps that correlation between people who are in school. So there's that. And then the second part, I don't even remember your second question, but we'll get to that in a second, is really about then the pandemic that happened. And I think that, people, especially when the show first came out, my parents would say to me, they were very proud of me and they loved the show and thought it was great. Many of their friends did not. And basically came back to that Steve Carell is so horrible. I can't watch what he says. It's just, he's too much. Which I always thought was funny because, like, the most watched show on television at that time when we came out was CSI, which involved a mostly naked young person being murdered at the beginning of the show. And somehow that was okay to watch. But Michael Scott saying something that hits a little too close to home was uncomfortable for people. I digress. That he does and says things that are inappropriate, but the overall message of the show is one of care and love and community. And as I have said in the podcast and wrote about in the book, the last line of the show, which was written by Greg Daniels, who was the creator, is, "There's beauty in ordinary things. Isn't that kind of the point?" And I think that idea of celebrating ordinary people who, by the way, myself included, or primarily, who look ordinary, who do ordinary jobs, can be extraordinary. and can have small victories that make them feel good. And I think, based on word of mouth, talking to people, that feel good message got through to people and brought people comfort, especially when they are going through a difficult time or were stuck at home during the pandemic. And the numbers of people who are watching the show, certainly that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers of people who are watching Tiger King really shot up too.
Yes,
Going back
exactly.
to what you said, yeah, I study office culture and kind of labor trends, and I think another aspect of it is that people in general over the past year, especially younger people who you said, were maybe in school and maybe in the workforce now, they're generally frustrated with their boss and the working environment that we're in. And so I think that it resonates even more. And then the other aspect is a lot of people are working remote or in hybrid environments where they're spending more time at home. Working conditions and careers and all of this is being talked about even more at the dining room table. So I feel like that's why it's resonating even more as well, because of this overarching culture we're in when it comes to office life.
That's very interesting. I had someone way smarter than me who talked about The Office. Almost there is now, and it hasn't been that many years, but a nostalgia for that working environment, right? Like, as things move away. I mean, Dunder Mifflin at its core, I know there was a corporate headquarters and, supposedly some other branches or whatever, but it felt like a mom and pop store. I mean, it felt very non-corporate, very small, confined. You're working with the same people, all after the same clients, blah, blah, blah. Now with big box stores taking over, like, how many Dunder Mifflins are there where you can buy paper? Is it just Office Max and Staples? Like that. It's weird because we were making fun of this dying industry, yet now that workplace, as dysfunctional as it was, that maybe there's some nostalgia for that or wanting to work there.
I could see that as well. What were the challenges of turning your love for chili into both a business and a cookbook?
Well, look, as I have said, if you told me, however, 10, 12 years ago that I would still be talking about chili, I would have thought you were crazy 10 or 12 years ago. It kind of started as a joke, not a joke, but I made chili for the first time. Brian made chili long after Kevin Malone made chili, and I made chili, and it was sort of like toward the end, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like, maybe I should take a picture of this. So I did. People kind of went nuts, and I enjoyed the process. I would say that I don't cook a lot, but I do like the big Thanksgiving holiday meals.
You cook when it really matters.
When it really matters, and when I have the time to say, like, this is what I'm doing today. And chili is kind of that way, right? Like I've said, and people have argued with me, but people rarely make a pot of chili for just themselves. Like, typically it is communal. It is, it's something you do with family or friends, or you're having a gathering or a group of people coming over and you want to make it. And so for me, that just became fun. And playing around, starting with a recipe I found online and tinkering it and changing it and doing all of that. And, then it was, well, I guess next it was about a business. I got approached by several, let's just call them chili companies, about thinking that it was as funny and humorous as I did, about wanting me to endorse, and nothing felt right for me. I would say that the best decisions that I have made in terms of business are the ones that feel organic and true to myself, because I feel like The Office feels organic and true to people, and you can smell a rat. And so for me, I got approached by Bush's Beans to partner with them on a chili recipe and to shoot some fun stuff with them. And I was like, oh, this makes sense, because this is an ingredient in my chili, and it's an ingredient that I actually use because it is different than all other beans. I mean, they're chili beans with the sauce that you put in that mixes it all together and gives the harmonious flavor to my chili. Like that, it actually does something. And I can speak to this, and this is real and true. So that relationship felt really organic. And then from there, through them getting invited to this world championship chili cook-off, which again, I show up, kind of a joke, right? Like, here's the chili guy, don't spill the chili. But I became like fascinated by all of the people, and everyone who was there had already won a contest, and they've made their chilies, and the culture of it, again, that sort of communal nature of everybody getting together and talking about it and what they do and how what they do is different, was so fun. I was like, we've got to release these recipes. People, as long as they'll let us, like, let's get this to people. And then found another great partner that was true and organic and real and very family, Fox Chapel, to release the cookbook. So for me, it's been so much fun, but it also has come from a true and real organic place for me. And that to me is why all of the relationships have been successful.
Because there's so many celebrity sponsors, and they can, people endorse everything for money, and
Right.
You can read through it. And especially in today's world of social media, people really don't put up with that and just won't purchase. And then they won't keep hiring that celebrity sponsor because the ROI won't be there. But it's good that you have a good partner, because to have to figure out, how to package and ship is like, it's a whole different world. And who wants to deal with that unless you have to?
Right.
And it is true. And you proved this, that even if you give the cookbook with the recipes, people will still want to kind of buy it or just watch you do it.
Right. It's been really fun. I mean, we did a little tour around, and people have seemed to really enjoy it. I mean, look, it's a cookbook, and it absolutely is. And there are 177 recipes in there that many are world champion or respected chefs, mine, of course, included as well. But we also try to have some fun with it as well, with the history of chili and stories about chili and my own experience with chili. So people have seemed to really enjoy it, and we've had a lot of fun going around the country. And in fact, we're going to take it to Camp Pendleton, the military Marine base in northern San Diego, here in a week or so. So that'll be really fun.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So you've hosted 2 podcasts, Deep Dive and Off the Beat, kind of all revolve around The Office. What is your formula for creating episodes that you enjoy, but that listeners also keep coming back to?
Wow. I feel like the key is for me to enjoy. And I say that kind of as a joke, but the
enjoyment's the motivator.
The enjoyment for me is the motivator, but I think that that's what leads to other people enjoying as well. I mean, look, for me, it is, and I just had a conversation with Ed Helms, actually. He and I just did a panel together. He's got a podcast, and it's very different. And in a lot of ways, it's more presentational in style, whether he's telling a story and presenting it. What I'm doing is the opposite. I have had the fortune to work with some incredible people, to get to know some incredible people, and now to be introduced to other incredible people who work in the industry or have achieved something. And what I'm looking to explore are those moments that helped them to be where they are now. And I believe that I'm in a unique position to get a story that no one else will get because of our personal past relationship or we have friends of friends, or simply we work in the business together as well. And, I oftentimes it is difficult, particularly around promoting a movie or a television show or a book or anything else. You have an agenda. There's an agenda, and this is what you need to accomplish, and this is what you need to sell, and this is what you need to say. And, for me, I try to make all of that stuff go away and have an inside conversation. And what the podcast really is inviting everyone to sit here in my little studio with me and listen to it. And people seem to really love it. But again, I love it. I was just saying this weekend, like, my business has diversified. We're selling chili. I'm working on a new television show. There are books, there's everything else, and family responsibilities. I'll tell you, when I come up here to my little podcast studio and I have a conversation with someone and we record for an hour and 15 minutes, it's my favorite part of the day. It's my favorite part of the day, just having a conversation with someone about those moments in their life that really help to change and shape them.
Yeah, and it's all about decisions too. Just like you were saying earlier on, your decision to go with one, being company versus another one, you lean into the authenticity and that you enjoyed, and that was organic. And to kind of explore that is really interesting to see. That's why my first question in every single interview has always been kind of about someone's maybe childhood or parent, guidance or influence, because it kind of gives you a sense of who this person is. And then you can kind of dig deeper into where they've been and kind of where they are now, for instance, about, what you're doing with the book and the business.
Yeah. It's so important for me. And I got to tell you something else. I feel so lucky to be able to have these conversations, because it's this other weird thing where I've sat on the other side of it. Like, I've been asked to do certain things, and the people's generosity of time and energy and spirit and depth with me. I can't thank them enough for it. And it feeds me in this incredible way, and gives me the energy both throughout my day and now throughout my career. So I'm just really loving it.
And what's your best piece of career advice?
Well, I would say it is going, I don't know if it's just because I'm thinking about it, but find people that enable you to do the work you want to do that is true to yourself. You just brought up that beautiful bean company, Bush's Again. And I was in Knoxville, Tennessee with them. It's the first time I'd been to their corporate headquarters. And let me tell you something. I walked in there, and I've done a lot of site visits at sponsors that I've been with. They started talking about the construction of this corporate headquarters, their manufacturing area. I don't know why I can't think of the word, where they produce the beans, a little bit outside of Knoxville. And they built this corporate headquarters, and they started making decisions as they grew and got bigger buildings and bigger buildings. And one of the guys there, Ben, was telling me that the halls are wider there at their headquarters. And he said, the reason why is it's because it's to encourage people to stop and talk to each other. And the wall, every office, unlike Dunder Mifflin, has a wall to the outside with glass. So everybody can see outside, and there's tons of communal spaces where they're together. And the feeling of happiness of people that were working there was palpable. Like it wasn't, it was very specifically not like the offices of Dunder Mifflin. And I thought, how great and lucky am I to have found an organic partner to what I'm trying to do that is also making responsible and great decisions for their employees, as well as making a great product and all that. But like those kinds of things, Fox Chapel is the same way. The publisher of the cookbook, they're small. They came to New York City a couple of weeks ago when I did the Today Show, and they're taping me interacting with people, and they're excited and it's fun. And, finding good people to work with in the business is just so important in whatever it is that you want to do.
And you hear so many horror stories, but it really connects what you said earlier on about everything you learned, during the office, and why the audience is still very interested in watching, the same episodes multiple times, is because of the community aspect, right? The community is what connects people, and the community is, if we have stronger communities, our whole culture improves as well.
That's right. I mean, clearly that is something that is resonating with me these days, hopefully forever. But I have found such great people to work with in all aspects of my business. And I feel like that brings me a tremendous amount of happiness. So yeah, there's my career advice. Find something you want to do, but more importantly, with the people that you want to do it with.
I love it. Well, that's great advice. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.